Hey, Cool Stuff's gonna have a booth at Gen Con, so if you have any Magic cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, or HeroClix singles to get rid of, please stop by. We offer great prices and a 20% bonus for trade-ins. Please visit our website for more information. Thanks for watching, and now it's time for Playing on a Budget.
Hi there, it's Kevin with GatheringMagic.com here with another episode of Playing on a Budget. This week we will be piloting the Blue-White Humans deck, and this is a budget deck, of course, so that means it's under $100. I've always been a fan of this archetype. It was very fun in the good old Scars and Mirrored and Innistrad days, and Champion of the Parish has seen a lot of play since then, and he used to be, that was the deck that he was in. It was kind of like a aggro tempo deck with Champion of the Parish backed up with like mana leaks, and some people even put like Vapor Snags and Gitaxian Probes and things like that just to thin out the deck even more. But the shell of the deck was just a lot of fast white human cards, and then you have a good old like Moorland Haunt to give you some reach very late game. And back then you had an Anthem effect in the Honor of the Pure. But since we don't have one of those in standard for the moment, M14 is going to give us that Path to Bravery, which I don't think will be too hard to activate with the cards like Cathedral Sanctifier. I'll bring up Cathedral Sanctifier while we were talking about it. And this is definitely a card you could actually put in this deck if you're worried about the more aggro matches. But I'll show you exactly. Hopefully I'll get faced up against some aggro matches and show you this deck actually can handle its own against Gruul aggro and the other like Naya Blitz and stuff like that. So anyway, this is Cathedral Sanctifier here. When it comes to play, you gain 3 life. Path to Bravery says it's 3 mana, and it says if you have more life than your starting life total, creatures you control get +1/+1. Whenever a creature attacks, you gain 1 life. Whenever one of your creatures attack, you gain 1 life. So it's a really cool card. I think it will see some standard play, especially in a white weenie deck, and you better believe it, I'll be piloting it. So I'm kind of musing around with what deck I would build for that, and this is definitely something I've come up with. Another life gain card that I have in the deck is Nearheath Pilgrim. It pairs great with the Champion of the Parish, and that's one of my tricks against aggro. A first turn Champion of the Parish into a second turn Nearheath Pilgrim and a third turn Silverblade Paladin. A lot of times you're gaining 6 life, and it's hard for them to come back for that. But we'll talk about that later. Right now, let's talk about pricing and what makes this a budget deck. Now, a budget deck we have determined to be under $100 or, you know, around that threshold. And this one's really flirting with that $100 limit. I usually don't count commons or uncommons because everyone it's pretty easy to trade for them or pick them up out of, you know, bulk common bins or whatnot. So I don't include that in the price. I don't also include basic lands or bulk rares. So this is basically $100 for things that actually will cost you any sort of money to buy. So we're using CoolStuffInc.com. Go check them out. They are a great sponsor of the channel, www.coolstuffinc.com, and also a great sponsor of GatheringMagic.com. So if you like this video series, if you want to support me or the video series, please go check them out. They have been very awesome sponsors with this channel. Anyhow, let's get back to the list here. So the cards that are going to cost you money, we'll just go from most expensive to least expensive. The most expensive card in the deck is going to be the $9 Hallowed Fountain. And of course, it is a must in this deck. I'm only running 4 blue sources. The only thing that costs blue in this deck are Lyev Skynight, Moorland Haunts, and the flashback of the Feeling of Dreads. So you want to use as many white sources as possible. Everything taps for white except for the 3 Moorland Haunts. 3 Moorland Haunts might be pushing it. You probably could find like a better card, like even like a Ghost Quarter might work, but I really like the reach that the Moorland Haunt allows, and it works great with the Angel of Jubilation late game as well. Anyway, so we'll go back to the prices here. The Glacial Fortress, everything else is around $3. Your next $3 to $4 is your next highest price. Glacial Fortresses right now are going for $3. The vendors are starting, now that we know that the, I guess they call these the buddy lands, aren't going to be reprinted in M14. The vendors are starting to sell these out as quick as possible. So they're very cheap right now. I think $3 is probably it's high for a while. You can even get these for, I'm sure, cheaper. I'm sure that the vendors will start even lowering their prices from that. But $3 is a bargain. This is traditionally usually a $4 or $5 card. Another card that's about $3 to $4 is Silverblade Paladin. Great card in this deck. It pairs very well with either Knight of Glory or the Boros Elite or the Champion of the Parish. I used to have Lyev Skynights in here, and I did take them out. All Lyev. They are the 3/1 that gain flying when you have Battalion. They're not a bad card whatsoever. I just decided that Thalia was a lot stronger, so I took them out. Wait, that's the Lyev Skynight. Lyev what is it called? Lyev something. There was a different Skynight. What's it called? It is called the... Oh, maybe it's not a Skynight. But anyway, there's a 3/1 flyer with Battalion. I mean, 3/1, 2 mana. If it gains Battalion, if you attack with 3 more creatures. Anyway, so the Silverblade Paladin pairs great with the Knight of Glory, and it pairs great with a lot of these other cards in the deck. Even pairs decently with like even Precinct Captain. But your main target that the Silverblade Paladins are in here for are your 3/1 flyers and your Champion of the Parish is going to get huge. Speaking of Champion of the Parish, he's another guy that's around $3 to $4. So it's going to cost you around 12 to 16 for a playset. And best card in your deck by far. Everything evolves him in the entire deck except for the Angel of Jubilation, which kind of evolves him anyway. What I mean by evolve is put a +1/+1 counter on him. So any human puts a +1/+1 counter on him. The next, another $3 card in this is Thalia. This is about historically the cheapest Thalia has been. It's a great bargain on Thalia. It works very well in this deck. Thalia is in here for the Junk Reanimator matchups. It sets them back a whole entire turn. It's great against Esper. It's even great against Jund a lot of times. That makes their Liliana come out of turn after. And it just really screws, even like Searing Spears, cards like that, it really just messes them up. So I like Thalia. 3 is perfect. I don't want 4. I don't want to get flooded with them. And the other $3 cards, we talked about Silverblade Paladin, Thalia, Champion of the Parish, and I think that's everything in our deck that's more than really bulk rare. We have a couple of cards that are kind of like a buck. I guess the Frontline Medic in our sideboard, which comes in against the other aggro matches or like mid-range decks where you're just going to start turning your card sideways and hopefully have a Frontline Medic, and no matter what, they can't kill your dudes. So everything else in here is either a common, uncommon, or a bulk rare. Like Angel of Jubilations are a bulk rare. The Moorland Haunts are a bulk rare. And I think that's all the rares. I think that's everything that's rare in this deck. So let's go to our 1-drops, which are Boros Elites. I'm running 4 of them. They're the second best 1-drop in White Weenie at the moment. The Battalion usually always happens by turn 3. So on turn 3, you're attacking with a 3/3. Like I said, he evolves the Champion of the Parish just great. And he also, yeah, that's basically it. Just a 1/1. For 1, that can be a 3/3. So I do think it's a little bit more powerful than Doom Traveler. It's better than the Dryad Militant because it is a human. I used to have the War Falcons in here because everything basically is a soldier as well. Because we have a human soldier, human soldier, human soldier, human soldier, human soldier. Everything's a human soldier or a knight. This is a knight. This is the only thing. So the only thing in the entire deck that doesn't allow it to attack is Angel of Jubilation and Fiend Hunter. So you can definitely go War Falcon. I decided to cut them at the last minute for the Doom Travelers. Maybe that's not the right play. Maybe I should be putting in the War Falcons. It's definitely up to you which ones you want to run. I kind of like the Doom Travelers because after they die, they do come back. And against the aggro, a lot of times that's the difference. It just comes down to like a creature. Whoever has the most creatures wins. Let's go to our 2-drops here. The Feeling of Dread is the second best card in this deck, is what I like to call it, because it for 2 turns, you're tapping down your opponent's creatures. It's amazing. And if you didn't have Feeling of Dread, there's a couple other cards you could use, but this one by far is the most effective one. I mean, you could use anything that taps down a creature. There's like Hidden Strings that isn't bad, or there's the blue Cypher one that's not bad that taps down a creature and then it doesn't untap, so it basically detains it. And another card you could actually use in this deck is Azorius Arresters at that 2-drop slot, and it would be another creatures, and it would kind of do what Feeling of Dread does, but I really like Feeling of Dread for the flashback. Like I said, it's 2 turns based upon compared to 1 turn, but Azorius Arrester, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a great card. If you decide to use it, go for it. It's definitely something that can fit in here. I'm using 4 of Knight of Glories because they're potentially something that can make the Champion of the Parish attack for 3 on turn number 2, which is awesome. And they have Protection from Black, which is actually really good in this format when Abrupt Decay and Tragic Slip and a few other black spells are the key removal in the set. Doesn't dodge Searing Spear Pillar, but that's okay. They'll be pillaring or Searing Spearing these dudes. So then we have the Precinct Captain. It's a great card. 2 white's not hard to get. Starts pumping out 1/1 white soldier tokens. Its first strike is very relevant in this format. And yep, pretty self-explanatory. Then we have the Thalias. Thalia, I've already talked about. Shuts down the any cards that are not creatures. I'm running a 2 of Fiend Hunter. You could actually go up. I have 2 in the sideboard as well. They'll definitely come against the aggro, and they'll come against mid-range. I only want 2 in the main board, though, because they aren't as aggressive as everything else. Again, Azorius Arresters can definitely take this spot. Then we have the 4 of Lyev Skynight. This is a reason why we're going blue with between Feeling of Dread and Lyev Skynight. It's a 3-1 beater for 3 mana. They detain something down, makes your champion get in there for another turn. They start going over top of Thragtusk. Amazing card. I love it. Pairs great with Silverblade Paladin. And then we have our Anthem effect with Angel of Jubilation. I like it. It might be a little slow for this deck. There might be better cards for it. But this is my card of choice. If you were going to make this a non-budget version, you could definitely replace the Sky Knights for the Geist of St. Traffs. Or I'm sure there's a few other cards that you definitely could use. But we'll go on to the sideboard. Dryad Militants are in here for the Junk Reanimator matchup or the Esper matchup. With anything with flashback, it comes in to hate it out. Got 1 more Feeling of Dread against midrange and aggro that I can bring in. 2 more Fiend Hunters. Frontline Medic comes in against aggro and midrange as well. And Nearheath Pilgrim can come in against aggro. Also, we've got a 3 of Negate to come in against control. Counters Sphinx's Revelations. Counters everything we want it to counter except for the Supreme Verdict. And if you're really worried about Supreme Verdict, you can bring in Rootborn Defenses instead of Negate. But if I take a Supreme Verdict, I always have Moorland Haunt and just more creatures to keep putting out after that. So Negate's just basically in there for just annoying cards like Azorius Charm and Sphinx's Revelation and whatnot. Anyway, we'll see how this deck does. I really like it. This is Kevin with GatheringMagic.com. Thanks for watching.